When a quiet birthday dinner turns into a deadly trap, one woman must outsmart the person she least suspects. This true crime-style thriller will have you questioning every smile at the dinner table. Keep watching, subscribe now, and don't miss the shocking revelations as the story unfolds. My name is Oprah Carter, and on the night of my 62nd birthday, I discovered that the people you love most can be the ones who want you gone. My son, Marcus, had arranged dinner at Giovanni's Trattoria, the cozy Atlanta Italian spot I'd adored for years. He said it was because he wanted the evening to be perfect for me. His wife, Beyoncé, glided into the booth across from me, every bit the picture of warmth and elegance, yet something about the tension in her smile set my nerves on edge. The restaurant glowed under soft golden lights. The smell of garlic and basil wrapped around us like a warm hug, and for a moment I let myself believe it would be an ordinary celebration. Marcus poured California Cabernet into our glasses and raised his own. "Mom, you look radiant tonight," he said, his eyes shining. Beyoncé echoed him with a gentle nod, though her fingers tapped an uneven rhythm on the table and her eyes flicked to her phone more than once. I ordered my favorite chicken parmesan. Marcus chose spaghetti bolognese. Beyoncé, ever conscious of appearances, asked only for a Caesar salad. We traded light conversation. Marcus talked about his promotion hopes. I told them about my new yoga class at the Y, but beneath the chatter ran a current I couldn't name. As Marcus stood for a toast, "To Mom, the strongest woman I know," I lifted my glass. That's when a young waitress with a neat ponytail, Serena, approached as if to wipe the table. With practiced subtlety, she slid a folded note beside my plate, her eyes locking on mine with a flash of urgency before she disappeared into the bustle of diners. My heartbeat quickened. Under the table, I opened the note with trembling fingers. "Don't drink that. Your life is in danger. Trust me." The sounds of clinking glasses and laughter blurred into a distant hum. The wine in front of me suddenly looked sinister. I excused myself, walking carefully to the restroom, the note burning in my hand. In the stall's harsh light, I read the warning again, rushed handwriting, no signature. My pulse pounded in my ears. When I returned, I forced a steady smile. Marcus was waving at the waiter for more bread. Beyoncé's gaze darted from my wine glass to my face like she was waiting for something. In that split second, instinct took over. While Marcus turned away, I casually switched my glass with hers. "A toast," I said, raising the glass that had once been mine. We drank. My wine tasted perfectly normal, but I barely tasted it. I watched Beyoncé. 5 minutes later, she pressed a hand to her stomach. "I feel a little off," she murmured. Her face paled. Marcus's expression shifted to alarm. "Honey, what's wrong?" Her hands trembled uncontrollably. Sweat beaded her forehead despite the restaurant's cool air. She tried to stand, but her legs buckled and she collapsed back into her chair, breathing fast and shallow. "Call 911, I shouted, my voice eerily calm despite the icy fear gripping me. Diners gasped. A hush fell over the room. Marcus supported his wife's shoulders, panic in his eyes, as paramedics rushed her to St. Cyn. Jude Medical Center. Marcus clutched my hand, his own shaking. I gripped Serena's note like a lifeline, the only proof that what I feared wasn't a nightmare. In the emergency room's cold, fluorescent light, we waited. Marcus paced. "She was fine an hour ago," he muttered. "Maybe it's food poisoning?" I said nothing. The note's warning pulsed through my mind like a drumbeat. A young doctor finally approached, his face grave. "Your wife is stable, but her blood work shows dangerously high levels of digoxin, a heart medication. In that amount, it's potentially lethal." The words slammed into me. Marcus blinked, bewildered. "Poison?" The doctor nodded grimly. "It didn't enter her system by accident. We've notified the police." I drew a deep breath and pulled the note from my pocket. "There's something you need to see," I said to Marcus, my voice shaking. His eyes widened as he read the words. "Mom, where did this come from?" I told him everything, the waitress, the warning, the glass I'd switched. With each detail, his face drained of color. Are you saying someone tried to poison you? He whispered. Yes, I said, my voice low but certain. The doctor listened, expression dark. We'll run blood tests on both of you to be sure. And the police will want to speak with you immediately. Marcus sank into a chair, stunned. I felt the room tilt around me. The person who had been in danger wasn't Beyoncé, it was me. And someone very close had just tried to end my life. Detectives arrived within the hour, their questions sharp and unrelenting. The lead investigator, Michelle Harper, a seasoned Atlanta detective with steel gray hair and a calm, commanding presence, asked me to recount everything, every glance, every word, while hospital monitors beeped behind us. I handed her Serena's note. She studied it, lips pressed into a thin line. Mrs. Carter, she said, this warning likely saved your life. We'll be testing your blood immediately to confirm you weren't exposed. Mark squeezed my hand, his face etched with guilt. Mom, I don't understand. Who would want to hurt you? I looked at him, then at the closed door to Beyoncé's room. The unease that had haunted me for months crystallized into something sharp. I think, I whispered, we both know who might. Hours passed like a slow-motion nightmare. When the doctor returned, his expression was grim. Oprah, there are trace amounts of the same medication in your bloodstream, but in much lower repeated doses. This pattern suggests long-term poisoning. My breath caught. The dizziness, the foggy moments I'd brushed off as aging. It hadn't been me. Someone had been poisoning me little by little. Detective Harper leaned forward. Have you noticed anyone encouraging you to seek medical care or raising concerns about your mental health? Mark stiffened. A few months ago, he said reluctantly, Beyoncé kept saying Mom seemed forgetful. She even suggested a care facility and that I should get power of attorney over Mom's finances, just in case. My stomach turned cold. I'm not confused, I said quietly. And I never asked for any of that. Mark buried his face in his hands. I believed her. I thought she was just worried about you. Detective Harper's eyes narrowed. We'll need to search your home and interview Beyoncé as soon as she's conscious. The next days blurred together. Beyoncé lay unconscious in the ICU, the machines keeping rhythm with her shallow breaths. Mark hovered near me, remorse heavy on his shoulders. We barely spoke, each lost in our own thoughts. When Beyoncé finally stirred, the detectives were ready. She denied everything at first, claimed she was the victim. But when confronted with the lab reports and the note, cracks began to show. While investigators gathered evidence, Detective Harper shared something chilling. We checked Beyoncé's background. Before marrying your son, she worked as a CNA. We also discovered her previous name, Beyoncé Peters. 2 years ago, a nursing student named Serena Reynolds. Yes, the same waitress lost her grandmother Eleanor Washington to sudden heart failure after unexplained cognitive decline. Caregiver on record? Beyoncé Peters. The room spun. She's done this before? I whispered. Harper nodded gravely. Serena recognized her tonight and followed her to protect anyone else. Your warning came from a stranger who'd already lost someone. Mark's face paled. My God, I brought her into our lives. The next day, Serena met me at a nearby cafe. She was young, barely 23, but her eyes held the weight of tragedy. My grandmother was strong, Serena said softly. Healthy. Then Beyoncé came into her life, helpful, generous. She started saying Grandma was forgetful, unsafe, alone. Soon, Grandma doubted herself. We moved her into an assisted living facility. 6 months later, she died of heart failure. I always suspected, but I had no proof. Tears pricked my eyes. That's exactly what she did to me. Serena nodded. When I saw her tonight, I knew. I saw her slip something into your glass when you weren't looking. I had to warn you. Her bravery stole my breath. She had faced her grandmother's killer and saved me from the same fate. Meanwhile, Detective Harper uncovered more online searches for how to make dementia look real, poisons that mimic heart failure, and ways to speed cognitive decline. Beyoncé had been plotting my death while planning to seize control of my assets that included a recent inheritance from my late mother. Mark's voice cracked as he told me how Beyoncé had pushed him to get me to sign legal papers, documents granting him power of attorney, prepared during a day when I'd felt strangely disoriented. "She drugged me," I whispered. The realization left me cold. Mark parked the car in a mall lot and covered his face. "Mom, I let her. I thought she cared for you. I should have known." I placed a hand on his shoulder. "She manipulated both of us. This isn't your fault." But the betrayal cut deep. Beyoncé had turned my own son into an unwitting accomplice, using his love to mask her cruelty. That night, as I reviewed the forged papers, a terrifying picture emerged. Beyoncé intended to have me declared incompetent, placed in a facility, and gradually killed, just as she had with Serena's grandmother. And once I was gone, Mark, holding power of attorney, would control everything, believing he was honoring my wishes while Beyoncé pulled the strings. It was a perfect crime, until a young woman's courage shattered the plan. When Beyoncé finally regained full consciousness, Detective Harper asked if I wanted to confront her. Part of me wanted to hide, but another part, the stronger part, needed to face the woman who had tried to steal my life. "Marcus and I will both be there," I said. The next day, we walked into her hospital room. A uniformed officer stood guard. Beyoncé lay pale and thin, IV tubes snaking from her arm. Her eyes, however, burned with a calculating intensity. "Oprah," she said weakly, reaching out a trembling hand. "Thank God you're safe." I was so worried. I stopped at the doorway. "We know what you did." Her feigned confusion wavered. "I don't understand. How's Eleanor Washington?" I asked quietly. For a flicker of a second, her face hardened. Then the mask slid back on. "I don't know who that is." Mark stepped forward, anger trembling in his voice. "We found the medications, the forged documents, the internet searches. We know everything." Beyoncé sat straighter, her voice losing its sweetness. "Marcus, everything I did was for us. Your mother is aging. It's practical to plan for the future." "Practical?" I said, my voice low and steady. "You call slow poisoning practical?" Her eyes flashed, then cooled into something like disdain. "Old people die. I just eased the process." "Your mother would have suffered anyway." The chill in her tone was worse than a scream. Detective Harper stepped closer, pen poised. "Mrs. Carter, are you admitting you attempted to kill your mother-in-law and previously killed Eleanor Washington?" Beyoncé's lips curled into a cruel smile. "People call it murder. I call it mercy." She had revealed her true self at last, a predator who believed her crimes were acts of twisted kindness. Mark shook with fury. "You're a monster," he whispered. I placed a calming hand on his arm. "She can't hurt us anymore." As we left the room, I felt a strange, liberating clarity. The woman who had invaded my life and poisoned my trust could no longer reach me. But the story, my story, was far from over. Detective Michelle Harper phoned me late that night. Her voice was low but steady. "Oprah, she's talking. Beyoncé has confessed not only to what she tried to do to you, but also to the deaths of Eleanor Washington and 2 other elderly women. We're moving forward with a plea agreement. She'll likely face life in prison without parole." I sank into my living room chair, the weight of months of fear sliding off me like an old coat. Relief didn't feel triumphant. It felt heavy and sad. 3 other families would never have the chance I had to survive. The months that followed were a slow rebuild. At first, I woke each morning tense and watchful. But gradually, the fog of paranoia cleared. I stopped double-checking locks and stoves. I began to trust my memory again. The dizziness and fatigue that had once haunted me disappeared, proof that poison, not age, had stolen my peace. Mark and I worked through his guilt in therapy. One evening after a session, he said, "Mom, it was easier to believe you were sick than to admit my wife was dangerous. If you were ill, I could be the hero. If she was lying, I'd brought danger to you myself. That would make me the villain." I held his hand. "You're not a villain, baby." She fooled us both. But we saw the truth in time, and that saved us. Beyoncé's trial lasted 3 tense weeks. I took the stand for 2 days, telling a jury how my own daughter-in-law slowly tried to erase me. Serena Reynolds, my brave young waitress, turned. Ollie spoke of her grandmother's death and the lonely fight for justice. The defense tried an insanity plea, but prosecutors laid out a chilling trail of evidence: forged legal documents, internet searches for poisons, and years of methodical financial planning. The jury needed only a day. Guilty on all counts. I didn't cheer when the verdict came. I just breathed. Justice wasn't victory. It was simply the end of the nightmare. I sold the house where Beyoncé had so often slipped poison into my food and drinks. I bought a small place on the quiet shores of Lake Lanier, where mornings bring the smell of pine and the soft shimmer of water. Planting a garden there became my therapy. Each seed I pressed into the soil felt like a promise that life, my life, was still mine to grow. Serena and I became close friends. Over coffee one afternoon, she told me, "I'm going to specialize in geriatric nursing. I want to protect elders the way I wish I could have protected my grandmother." Her words filled me with a warmth deeper than gratitude. Through our shared pain, something good would bloom. Mark has moved on too. He met someone gentle and open-hearted named Sarah at a support group for families of crime victims. When he introduced her to me, I saw in his eyes the quiet determination to never again ignore his instincts. "Mom," he said recently, "I'll never let anyone make me doubt you again." I smiled. "And I'll never let anyone make me doubt myself." One evening, a letter arrived from the prison. No return address, but I recognized Beyoncé's sharp handwriting. Against my better judgment, I opened it. She wrote not to apologize, but to complain about prison conditions, ending with a line that chilled and strangely amused me: "I hope you appreciate the favor I tried to do you." I fed the letter to the fire and watched the flames reduce her words to smoke. Her power over me vanished with the ashes. Now, every sunrise over Lake Lanier feels like a quiet victory. I reclaimed my life, my mind, and my dignity. I am Oprah Carter, and I survived an attempted murder by the woman who called me Mom. I am not a victim, I am a warrior. Call to action. If this story gripped you as much as it gripped me to live it, share it with someone who needs a reminder of their own strength. Subscribe now for more real-life stories of survival and courage, because sometimes the most shocking betrayals come from the people closest to us, and the most powerful revenge is simply living free.